Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I have a big treat for you all. In today's video, I'm sharing what we made for Christmas Eve. Every year, it is a tradition within our family to just celebrate Christmas Eve a little bigger and enjoy time with our friends, our family, and of course, eat and make lots of great food. One of the biggest traditions for us on Christmas Eve is my Grammy's famous seafood rice. Now, this isn't your regular paella, it's what she calls seafood rice. It has lots of different types of seafood, it has pigeon peas, a beautiful spicy and flavorful yellow rice, and it's just our little family tradition and we look forward to it every year. In today's video, I've partnered up with IMUSA. They're the brand that makes all of these different karihis and caldero pots, and many Guyanese people, many Latin people, Caribbean people all over the world make use of these pots, big or small depending on the event or just for household use. We love these pots. My grandmother has had some of these pots for over 30 years and they're very durable. They cook food very well. And I just want to thank IMUSA for sending me a couple of their large karihis or calderos, as well as some of their smaller pots, so I can show you guys in this video just how we utilize all of them for our Christmas Eve celebration. So if you want to purchase from them, you can purchase directly on their website or at many different local grocery stores. But I hope you all enjoy this video. Let's get into it.
These people don't know how to do things.
It's like a pine tart. You make pine tart?
No, I didn't.
What happened this year? Whatever ass up to eat.
Auntie, I'm dying over the bara. Mom just brought it back up the other day.
Sure, it's good. Oh, hey, mine doesn't sit.
Please. Let me try one.
Ready?
How can we have Christmas with no pine tarts? We talked about it in the car too. I didn't know this. Why you didn't make pine tart?
Well, I usually make it the day before.
Yeah, so what happened to the day before?
Today was
The day before.
So my girlfriend and my aunts were making some buffalo chicken rangoons, and in a bowl here I started making my coffee mixture for my tiramisu, and you're going to see how I put it together in the next few clips. So I finished making my coffee mixture. All it had was some instant ground coffee, some water, some sugar, and now I'm going to make the cream filling for it. So in a bowl I've added in a block of cream cheese, and I'm going to cream that together with some sugar until the sugar is dissolved. So once the cream cheese and sugar were mixed together and it was nice and soft, I went ahead and started streaming in a little bit of amaretto, a little bit at a time. And the amaretto is just an almond liqueur, makes it taste really good. And you all heard my Auntie Kavita complaining in the background. She was wondering why Auntie Kavita didn't make any pine tarts this year for Christmas. So Auntie Kanita got right on that and started boiling some pineapple to make that pineapple jam. And the mixture is very simple. It just has pineapple, sugar, a little bit of nutmeg. You can add in a cinnamon stick if you wish. And she likes to go ahead and use an immersion blender just to break down that pineapple. And moving back to my tiramisu, once that cream cheese, sugar, and the amaretto are mixed in together, I added in my heavy whipping cream, and I'm going to keep on beating this together. You want to make sure to add in a good amount of sugar when you're mixing the cream cheese, because that's the stage where the sugar will dissolve best, and it will give the best sweetness to the dish. So once you get the coffee mixture and the cream mixture done for the tiramisu, it's time to assemble. So I have some lady fingers that I bought from the grocery store, and I'm just dipping them into the coffee mixture until they're nice and soaked. And once they've soaked properly, it's time to go ahead and just lay them on the bottom of the tray and lay them out as well as they'll fit into the tray. And once you get the first layer of lady fingers down and you soak them in the coffee, it's time to add in that cream. I'm doing 2 layers today just because it's not a lot that I'm making. So it's just 1 layer of lady fingers, a layer of cream, another layer of lady fingers, and then the last layer of cream as well. So we're going to keep on layering this together. If you guys are interested to see how I put together this tiramisu, please go ahead and check it out on my channel. Just search Matthew's Guyanese Cooking Tiramisu Recipe and it will be there. I shared it a long time ago, but it is my favorite dessert recipe that I make and I truly enjoy it and everybody loves it too. We were cooking the night before Christmas Eve, being that our party was Christmas Eve. So this will sit in the fridge overnight. I'll put the cocoa powder tomorrow. So the next thing that we're going to prep is my potato and crab balls. So basically in a pot of hot water, I'm adding in some salt, and right into that, I'm going to go in with my peeled and cut potatoes. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to boil these potatoes until they're nice and soft and they're fork tender. You want to make sure not to overboil the potatoes, or else when you mix the crab balls together, they're going to end up being too soft and they're going to fall apart. So my potatoes boiled, they got nice and soft, and I did not overboil them. I'm just going in with a fork. You can also use a potato masher, and you're going to mash everything together until it's a little chunky but mostly mashed up. And at this point, we're going to add in some seasonings. I'm going to add in my chopped scallions as well as some chopped hot wiri pepper. Now, I'm not adding in any onions into this just because we're going to be forming these and putting them in the fridge overnight and then frying them. But of course, if you were making a small batch and just making this for your household, you can add in some finely chopped onions. And at this point, I'm also going to mix in about a tablespoon of butter. This is just going to give it a nice little creaminess, a richness, and it's going to help with the texture. And this is the main part of the crab and potato balls. We're going to take some imitation crab meat and I'm going to chop it up very finely and I'm going to add it right into that potato mixture. Of course, you can find the lump crab meat in the can, the real crab meat. You can use that. But this is something that my grandmother used to make for us growing up, and I love the taste that the imitation crab meat gives. Of course, you can make it with the real deal, but this is super delicious as it is. And we're just going to mix this up very well, and I'm going to go in with a little bit of salt, some adobo, any of those like all-purpose seasonings you can add in at this point, give it a taste, and then we're ready to roll them. And although they're called crab and potato balls or crab balls, we actually don't roll them into a circular round shape. We roll them into these oblong or oval shapes. And this is just the way that my grandmother used to make them for us, so that's how I'm going to continue to make them and what I'm doing here today. So you just take a portion in your hand, roll it into a ball, and then flatten it out into an oval shape, and that's how you're going to get it here. Again, we made a bigger batch because this was for our little Christmas Eve party that we always have, so that's why we're making so much. So once I get all of these rolled out, I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of plastic wrap over this, and I'm going to put it into the fridge, and we're going to leave it there overnight until tomorrow, right before we're ready to serve and we're ready to fry them. So now this was the morning of Christmas Eve, the day of our little Christmas Eve get together with family and friends. So over here, we're starting off by making the pine tarts. This is Auntie Kenita's specialty. She makes these little bite-sized pine tarts and they're super delicious and something she always makes. And so she made the pineapple jam last night and she's just filling them now. Put them onto the tray and we're putting the egg wash on. So while those pine tarts are baking in the oven, I'm going to start working on my bara mixture. So this way later it's ready and we can just fry it before everybody comes. So in my bowl, I have some all-purpose flour. I'm going to be going in with a nice hefty pinch of salt to give it that flavor. I'm also going in with a nice pinch of sugar, and the sugar is going to help the yeast puff up or to activate, and it's going to help you get a nice fluffy soft bara. And at this point, we're also going to be going in with our split peas powder or the dal flour, and I'm also going in with a little bit of adobo or all-purpose seasoning. It's just a little something to add some extra flavor, but it is optional. And I'll also be going in with some turmeric, or like Guyanese people call it dye. This is going to give it that nice yellow color that we know bara to have. If you wanted to, you could use yellow food coloring. I know some people do that as well. And I'm also going to be going in with some ground cumin or ground jeera. And this one is roasted, so you get a very nice pungent flavor from it, and it makes the bara taste really good. And I'm now going to go in with my yeast. Whenever you're making bara, you do not have to add in a crazy amount of yeast because the more yeast you add, the oilier the bara is going to be. Whenever you add yeast into things, it tends to make it suck up a little bit more oil. So I tend to go in with not too much yeast, but you definitely need it because it helps give that stretchy texture that bara has. And at this point, I'm also going to be going in with my baking powder, and baking powder is a must when you're making bara because it makes it a little more light, a little more fluffy than if you were to just use yeast alone. I've tried to make bara with just baking powder before, like if you don't have yeast or don't like using yeast, but the texture is just slightly different because the yeast gives it that nice stretchy pull apart texture that bara usually has. So now that all of my dried ingredients are in this bowl, I'm mixing it up. I'm using clean hands here, and remember, I'm cooking for just my family. So if you want to use gloves when mixing, feel free to, but I'm not doing that today. And at this point, I'm going to go in with some fresh seasoning that I just ground up. This is a lot of garlic, a lot of hot pepper, as well as some culantro or shoutout. Now, the culantro is definitely optional, but I like to add it in. I just like the fresh taste that it gives. And right into that same blender I grinded up my seasoning in, I'm just rinsing it off with some warm water, and I'm going to add that straight into my dough, and I'm going to mix it together. When you're making bara, a lot of people say you have to mix it till it's very runny, but I do not make it that soft. You have to just mix it until you get a very, very sticky dough. So this way, when it rises and you're ready to fry, you can actually hold the pieces of dough so you can fry it and form the bara properly. Just remember, if you make the bara too liquidy, what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to form them well when you drop them into the oil. It's going to be hard to work with. And also, the more liquidy you make it, the more oil it's going to suck up when it fries. So I'm just working in a little bit of warm water at a time. And by using warm water, that's going to help the yeast activate as well. And at this point, I'm going to go in with some finely chopped scallions. If you are making bara for a very large event and the bara is going to be sitting out for a long time after you fry it, I would not add in the green onions, because if you do, sometimes it tends to spoil depending on how hot it is or where you're leaving it. But since I'm just making this for the house and it's also very cold outside, it's winter time, I'm adding in my scallions. And I'm also going to go in with some chopped spinach. This is just regular frozen chopped spinach, and you can add in as much or as little as you want. If you want to make this bara just a little bit more special as well, something my grandmother used to do every once in a while was she used to shred up a carrot inside of the bara. It makes it taste really good, adds a little bit of texture to it, and of course you're adding a little bit of veggies into it as well. And at this point, I'm just working in that spinach as well as the scallions until they're well mixed in. And then here is the important part. You have to beat this mixture very well, so this way it can end up nice and soft and fluffy. I always find that if I don't beat the bara enough, it tends to be a little bit hard and not as fluffy as it could be when I go to fry it. So hold a bowl on the side and go ahead and just keep on beating it with your hands until it comes together and it smoothens out just a little bit. Whenever I'm making bara, I like to beat it for about 2 to 3 minutes, so this way it can smoothen out a bit and it gets that nice stretchy texture. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this with a towel or some plastic wrap, leave it in a warm place, and it's going to rise basically all day until I'm ready to fry it. I think this bara ended up raising for about 5 hours, but of course you can just leave it an hour and it'll be ready to fry. So the bara dough is rising now. We're moving on to the next dish. I'm going to be making a very big batch of tennis rolls, so this way we can eat with our pepper pot tomorrow morning. Now usually what we do is we bake our bread after everybody leaves our Christmas Eve dinner. We'll bake it that night, very late at night, so this way the next morning everybody has fresh bread to eat. But I decided I would mix it early in the day, bake it off, and just leave it on the side. So this way tomorrow morning and tonight we don't have to do anything, we can just eat. So in a bowl, I've got a lot of flour. I think I'm quadrupling my recipe that I have on my channel. I've added in my sugar because the sugar is going to give it a nice little sweetness. And I'm going to go in with some melted butter and I'm going to mix that in very well. And off to the side, of course, I have my yeast and the water and sugar mixture blooming and waiting for that to get a little bit puffy. If you want to see a full in-depth recipe, I have them on my channel for tennis roll, flatbread, butter flap, any kind of bread you want, I've got it on my channel. This is just a quick little overview of all the things that I'm making for Christmas Eve. So I got all of the butter mixed in with the flour and the sugar very well. I also wanted to mention I added in a little bit of salt in that flour mixture just to help give it some flavor as well. And now at this point, I'm adding in my yeast mixture. This was just some warm water, yeast, and some sugar to help it bloom or puff up. And now I'm going to keep on mixing it and adding in more water until I get a very soft dough. I would also like to add that I added in a little bit of mixed essence. You can also use vanilla extract. I also added in a little bit of lemon extract or lemon essence, as well as some lemon zest. What all of those are going to do, it's going to make it taste like one of those bakery tennis rolls and give it that beautiful lemony sweet flavor. That's exactly what you want, to get a homemade tennis roll tasting like something you got from a bakery. And like I say whenever I'm making any kind of bread, keep on adding in water until you get a very sticky mixture, and then you're just going to knead it until it smoothens out. Remember, if you make the bread dough too hard, you're going to end up with a drier, more crumbly bread texture. But if you get it nice and soft, you're going to get that beautiful stretchy bread, and it's going to be soft and fluffy in the middle.
This is the key when you're making the bread. You have to mix it with the loaf.
Exactly.
You have to put the loaf.
Oh, we've not released that in the video.
You have to put the loaf.
Please leave that in the video.
So if the viewers are watching,
I am
don't
seated
listen to
already.
Maxi. She has to make it with love.
You have to put the loaf. You take it from the heart, you put it in the loaf.
So if I was making a very small batch of bread, I would have put it in my stand mixer and let it mix up. But since I'm making a big batch, it can't fit in the stand mixer. That's why I got to make it by hand. And instead of leaving it in the bowl and making it harder on myself to knead it properly, I'm just going to put it on a floured surface and I'm going to knead it very, very well. Make sure you clean off your countertop well and then get some dry flour, sprinkle it on top of the dough, and just start to work the dried flour in and get it nice and soft and smooth. You can see that this is a very shaggy dough. It's not smooth at all. But by the time we're done kneading this, which will take a good 5 to 10 minutes, you'll see it gets nice and smooth. And making bread and working with any kind of dough tends to be a little bit of a messy thing, but just keep on working with it and keep on incorporating all of those bits and pieces that comes off of it, and you will be good to go and you'll end up with a very smooth bread. And when I'm kneading the bread, I like to use this little motion. I'm not really folding it onto itself, but I'm just moving it back and forth until the dough starts to smoothen out, and I work with it a little bit just so we can form the gluten and we can get a good texture bread. And this is what you're going to be left with when you're done kneading the dough. I split the dough into 2 pieces. This way it would make kneading it a little bit easier. And this is one of the pieces when I finish kneading it. It's nice, it's soft, it's pliable, and it's nice and smooth. That's exactly what you want. So at this point, I'm going to put all of my dough back into the bowl. I'm going to cover it with some plastic wrap and a tea towel, and I'm going to let it rest for a couple of hours until I'm ready to start forming the tennis rolls. So the next step now is to make some chicken curry. Now I'm using the hard fowl that you get from the farm. I'm not using the grocery store chicken. So in my bowl here, I have some curry powder, some of our homemade masala, as well as some roasted ground jeera, and I'm adding in some fresh seasoning that I just blended. The seasoning has some culantro or shoutout, lots of garlic, lots of hot pepper, and a little bit of water just to bring it all together. We're going to mix this up until we get a nice paste. So this is not one of the karihis that IMUSA sent me, but this is an IMUSA brand karihi that my aunt has had for years. And let me tell you, the longer you have these karihis, the better they tend to cook, because they tend to season longer and longer every time you cook in them. So I'm adding in my oil for my curry. And once that oil gets nice and hot, you're going to chunky that curry. You're going to add that paste into the hot oil, and you're going to bunjay it down until the oil releases back from the spice mixture and all those spices cook down properly. Now I just went in with the tiniest little piece of tomato paste just for a nice little color. That is 100% optional. You don't have to add it in. It's just my preference. And I'm going to keep on cooking this down until the curry fries up just a little more. And like I always say, if the curry tends to stick or if it dries up a little bit too much, you can always add in just a little bit of water to loosen it up and bring up those bits from the bottom of the pot. So as the curry paste is almost done cooking, I'm going to go ahead and season it a little bit. That's what I always like to do because it really starts to create those flavors, and when you add the meat in, it really sucks up into the meat as well. So into that curry paste, I'm going in with some salt, and I'm also going to be going in with a little bit of adobo or all-purpose seasoning. Again, it's up to you and your preferences. Use whatever brand of all-purpose seasoning you like. And into that curry paste, once the oil releases from it and it's cooked properly, we're going to be going in with our chopped onions as well as our chopped scallions or green onions, and we're going to fry that up until they soften a little bit as well. Now, whenever people make curry, sometimes they fry off the onions and the scallions first, then add in the curry paste. Sometimes I do it like that as well, but I just wanted to show you guys you can do it any way you want, and trust me, you're going to get a delicious curry in the end. So once my curry paste has bunjayed down very well, I've let the onions soften a bit, it's time to go in with our hard fowl. So this fowl is what my grandmother chopped up. She seasoned it a little bit. She just added in a couple of herbs. She added in some black pepper, some garlic powder, but we do not add in any salt when we season the meat. So we're adding that into the curry paste now. And what we're going to do is we're going to saute this, or bunjay it as we would say. We're going to let all those spices sear into the chicken. And what's going to happen here is not only is the chicken going to get a chance to suck up all of the seasoning, but it's going to allow the chicken to release what we call the rank water, or the natural juices. All those juices sometimes tends to make the curry taste like too chickeny or a little gamey. So you have to make sure to burn out all of that water that the chicken has. So we're going to let this fry up very well, take its time, let the juices release from the chicken, and then let them evaporate and fry down again. So this right here is what the chicken looks like after it bunjayed down very well. As you can see, it's definitely dry, it's sticking to the bottom of the pot a little bit, and all of those spices are clinging to the chicken. So at this point, we're going to cover it about 3/4 of the way. Remember that hard fowl tends to take a little longer to cook than your regular chicken from the grocery store. So cover it 3/4 of the way, and we're going to start to let it boil slightly before we add in our potatoes. And while my chicken curry was bubbling away, I'm going to go ahead and cut up the sponge cake that I made earlier today as well. So this way we can just set it out on the platter for when everybody comes. This is my regular simple sponge cake recipe that I have on my channel. I have so many different versions, and I added in the food coloring just to make it Christmas themed. And of course, besides the sponge cake, we also had my aunt's pine tarts that she made, and we also had some fruit cake that my grandmother baked as well. Sadly, this year I didn't get to go through the whole process and bake with Grammy and showcase how she makes her fruit cake, but I promise you guys next year when she's baking, I will capture that as well. So my chicken was about halfway done cooking at this point, so I'm adding in my potatoes that I chopped up. I'm going to add in a little bit more water, and I'm just going to allow it to boil until the potatoes are nice and tender. Also, make sure that you taste the curry when you add the potatoes in, because remember, the potatoes are going to suck up even more of that salt that you already added in. So at this point, we're getting a little closer to guests arriving. So I'm going to go ahead and start frying off some of our appetizers. Like I said, IMUSA sent me some amazing karihis or caldero pots. This one is one of their 6-quart pots, and we decided to fill that up with some oil and start to fry those buffalo chicken rangoons that my girlfriend was making. And these were absolutely delicious. They're spicy on the inside, has that beautiful buffalo taste, and of course they're crispy, and it's the perfect little party appetizer, and trust me, your guests are gonna love them. I'm also showing you guys all of these tennis rolls that we made. I ended up getting about 3 dozen tennis rolls from this entire batch. Like I said, I basically quadrupled the recipe. That's why we got so much. And I love frying in these karihis or these caldero pots because they hold the heat so well and they get nice and hot. And as you can see, these rangoons or these wontons, they got very crispy, nice and golden brown, and perfectly cooked on the inside. And while the rest of those buffalo chicken rangoons were being fried off, we went ahead and heated up another one of those calderos that they sent us, and we started to bread those crab and potato balls that we made last night. You just want to make sure to remove them from the fridge maybe 30 minutes before you're going to cook them. And once you remove them and they've come to room temperature just slightly, you can go ahead and put them in an egg wash and then put them in some breadcrumbs and go ahead and coat them very well. This is going to give them a nice, beautiful crispiness on the outside. And while my grandmother and my aunts were finishing off those crab balls and just breading them, I went ahead and I fried the bara since the oil was hot at this point. And I always make my bara with some holes inside because I really like that crispiness that it adds to it. And it also helps you to make sure that the bara is cooked in the middle. A lot of people don't know about making the hole, but we like to do it because we always know the bara is cooking evenly and you don't have to worry about it being raw on the inside. My biggest recommendation to you guys, just to get that proper shape, is to go ahead and dip your hands in a little bit of oil. Go ahead and scoop up some of that bara dough, spread it out in your fingers, make the hole, and drop it into that hot oil. And since our bara is done frying, this is the last thing that we're frying away, and we're going to put them all on the serving platters. These are the crab and potato balls. So like I said, we just breaded it with some egg wash as well as some breadcrumbs, and then we're just going to flash fry it. All you need to do is fry it until they're golden brown, so make sure it's on a high heat, and then take them out of the oil and they'll be beautiful and golden brown. And as we were frying away all of those appetizers, we were baking bread at the same time. Lots of different things were going on, guys. So I had just formed this bread earlier. I had let it rise back in the pan, and then I stuck it in the oven at 350 degrees, and I let it bake for about 20 to 25 minutes until they were golden brown, as you see here. And as soon as they come out of the oven, I take a napkin or a tissue and I lather it down with some butter. This is going to keep them nice and soft. It's going to make them glisten on the top. And trust me, these were some of the softest tennis rolls that we ate on Christmas morning with our pepper pot. And it was just one less thing for us to do later that night, so this way everybody got fresh bread the next day. But I'm just pulling one apart just to show you guys how beautiful and soft they are. They're really hot, but they're going to taste great. So now we're getting to the main part as to why IMUSA sent me these beautiful karihis or these large pots. This one right here is their 27-quart caldero or karahi, and this one is perfect for very large events. I actually have a couple of these for when I'm cooking for like pujas and other big events like that. And they come in handy because you always need some big, good quality pots to cook in when you're having large events. And just like today, we have a big one here to use for Grammy's seafood rice. Because she cooks a lot of rice, number one, and then also by the time you add in all of the different seafoods, it fills up the entire pot and it makes for a great dish to feed a large crowd. So in my pot here, I've added in some oil. Grammy went ahead and added in some shrimp, and the shrimp was simply seasoned with some like paprika, lots of different dried herbs, garlic powder, black pepper, a little bit of salt, and we're just going to stir them around until the shrimp is slightly browned and partially cooked. And once those shrimp are partially cooked, you're going to go ahead and remove them and put them into a bowl because you don't want them to overcook. You're just going to set them aside and we'll add them in later. And while Grammy was taking that shrimp out, I just wanted to show you guys this awesome cheese and meat board that my aunt put together. It has lots of different meats, prosciutto, salami, Italian sausage, as well as different types of cheese. There's some fresh figs, there's some olives, lots of different spreads, some crackers, and lots of good stuff. This is a great thing to have when you're having a large event because it gives everybody something to snack on. And as you can see, my aunt's drizzling on a little bit of honey onto everything. It made it taste absolutely amazing and perfect. So into that same pan, we just browned off the shrimp. Grammy is going in with some large Dungeness crab legs. Now this right here, this is one of the main stars of the show when she makes the seafood rice. Everybody loves those big meaty pieces of crab floating throughout that rice. So we're just going to go ahead and steam this now and saute it in the oil, let it soak up some of those flavors, and we're going to remove those as well. So after a couple of minutes, Grammy's just removing those crab pieces and putting them into the bowl with the shrimp and setting it aside for later. And once the crab is removed, Grammy's going to go in with the mussels. Now every year we tend to do something just a little bit different. This year we added in mussels with the crab and shrimp. Some years we just do crab and shrimp. Some years the crab legs are bigger. And some years I think Grammy does scallops. It just depends on the year, what we feel like adding in. It's very versatile. And now at this point, once we took out the mussels after they steamed, Grammy added in some oil. Then she added in lots of chopped onions, chopped scallions, as well as some hot pepper, garlic, and a little bit of culantro as well. And we're sauteing all of those things together. And once all of those onions and seasonings and hot pepper and everything fry up together in that oil, it's time to go in with our washed rice. Now in today's video, we are using some regular white rice, but if you wanted to use parboiled rice, jasmine rice, basmati rice, whatever kind of rice you have on hand, you can definitely use it. We've used parboiled before, we've used white rice, and we've also used jasmine. They all taste great. And once you fry up that rice very well with all of the seasonings, it is time to add in your water. So today, since we use the white rice, we're using 1 part white rice to 2 parts water. If you were using jasmine rice, you'd probably want to use 1 part jasmine rice to 1.5 parts of water, just because it's a quicker cooking rice. And once we added in that water, we're going to mix together very well. And Grammy's also going to go in with one of those large cans of pigeon peas, and we did not drain it or wash it. We're just going in with all of the liquid. This is a large can. If you couldn't find this, use 2 small cans. And at this point, Grammy is also going to salt this mixture very well, so this way it can get that beautiful taste and nice flavor. Remember, this is a lot of rice that she's cooking. I believe it's like 5 or 6 cups of rice, so you have to make sure to salt it very well. And of course, this is like a yellow rice type of thing, so Grammy's going in with a little bit of Sazan powder, which is going to give it a flavor and some yellow color. And she's also going to go in with a little bit of yellow food coloring, the powdered version that they sell. And we're going to mix that together until you get the color that you like. And now what we have to do is once it comes up to a boil, you have to go ahead and lower the heat to a simmer, cover it, and let the rice steam until it's nice and soft and all of that water is evaporated. So check it out, guys. All of that rice steamed very well, and before all of the water dries up totally, it's time to add in all of that seafood, so this way we can steam everything together finally. So into that pot, we've added in all of that shrimp we browned, the crab we browned off, as well as those mussels, and we're just going to stir everything together very well. I'd like to also mention you can find these beautiful big wooden spoons on IMUSA's website. They also sell them at certain grocery stores wherever IMUSA products are sold. And I just want to thank them for sending me this large spoon as well, because it really helped us mix together all of the things in this pot. Like I was telling you guys before, this is a 27-quart pot. And as you all can see, it is basically filled up with all of that seafood and that rice, the beans, and this is such a delicious dish, especially for Christmas Eve when we get together. And once everything is mixed together properly, we're going to put the cover on, let it sit for about 10 more minutes on a low heat, and then at that point, it is ready to serve. So those were all of the delicious things that we ate on Christmas Eve. Of course, we had our chicken curry, we had dal puri, we had our seafood rice, my aunt made mac and cheese for the kids, and of course, we had those beautiful appetizers. My girlfriend made her buffalo chicken rangoons. I made some soft and fluffy bara. And we also had those crab and potato balls. And just finishing off the night, of course, we ate that beautiful, colorful sponge cake I made. But we're also slicing into this delicious tiramisu. Everybody really enjoyed themselves. I was, of course, happy, grateful, and blessed to have spent another amazing Christmas with my family. I'm so happy that we were able to be together, come together, and celebrate a beautiful holiday. Once again, thank you to IMUSA for sending me all of those karahis, caldero pots, and those big wooden spoons to put together some of our amazing dishes. Make sure you check them out on their website. I'll link everything down in the description box below. I hope you all had a great holiday season, and I hope you all enjoyed this video with my family and friends. Please like, share, subscribe, drop your comments down below. Let me know what you did for the holidays, and I'll see you all again very soon.